There's only three baskets your relationship can be in: the good basket, the bad basket, or the ugly basket. And your job is to make sure your relationship doesn't end up in the ugly basket. And the ugly basket is easy to describe. It's where you won't give yourself or your partner a chance to get back to good. When I help people, I don't help them change their behaviors. I just help them grow in awareness and feel deeply what's happening. And out of that awareness, grows empathy, compassion, and then our behaviors change. But the big revolutionary shift is, oh, look at the way we are hurting because we're so important to each other.
Welcome back to the Medicine Podcast. My name is Mimi, and I have my beautiful lover, partner, king, magician, warrior in my life and podcasting. Welcome.
What is going on, everybody? We're so stoked to be back on the Medicine Podcast and really excited today. Special guest, Figs O'Sullivan. Welcome to the Medicine, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. Excited.
Possibly the coolest name.
Yeah.
Figs.
Yeah. Figs O'Sullivan. It's just it's just dreamy. I love it.
Thank you. You know, my wife's name is Teal. So we're a good combo. Teal Fig.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah. Very unique. I'm sure you get that all the time. We're like, wow, what a unique, fun name.
Yeah. Well, you know, my real name is Fiacra, and Fiacra is really hard for people to pronounce.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so I've been called Fig since I was 4 or 5 years old.
That's great. I love it. Well, let's get into it. This is the question that we ask every guest on the Medicine is, what do you love in your life? What aspect of your life do you love so much that you wish you could gift it to every human?
Well, you know, the most important thing to me, the thing I love the most is being part of a family, right? It's the most important. That's the reason I do the work I do. You know, and it's a cliched story of Irish alcoholic dad and heartbroken mother, and you know, grew up in a broken home. I guess you call it that. I feel like it's insulting to call it a broken home, but there was a lot of pain and sadness and shame, right? And so what I wanted the most was to be part of a family. I wanted to be part, like our whole family to be together when I was a kid, and it couldn't happen. And now I get to be that today. You know, married, not that one has to be married, but right, like I just love my life with my kids. It's unbelievable. Every day I'm just like, I can't believe I get to do this. With moments of, I wish I could hand them off.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's like I'm literally living the little heartbroken boy's dream come true, to be a husband and a dad.
I love that.
Oh, that's beautiful. And man, we get such an opportunity to heal those challenges and those wounds from our childhood and the way that our adult life plays out. And that's just something that is a core value for us and definitely just music to our ears to hear. There's others in this space trying to do the same. You know, it's a world right now where there's seemingly a global crisis every other day. And it's everything from, you know, political divisiveness to international threats, climate threats. What is it about your work? What is it about relationships that still seems this important right now in this time, despite all of the noise, all of the tragedy?
Yeah, well, so I'm a couples therapist, right? And I primarily look at things from an attachment perspective. And for your listeners, I won't say much about it now. If you want to go in more detail, I will. But basically, attachment theory is the best theory we have of what love is. And it's a primary need for human beings to be emotionally bonded. And so the way I look at it, if you can get the foundational primary need sorted, which is that I'm actually feeling securely emotionally bonded, whether that's with one partner, more partners, your family, whatever your gig is, but you're securely bonded in those primary relationships, right? Then you can go thrive in the world and deal with whatever the world throws at you. Now, there's lots of problems that are out of our control. Like if a tsunami, like I was saying, I live on Oahu. in Hawaii. Like if a tsunami was coming right now, love's not going to stop. Sorry. Like I'm not that woo-woo. Love's not going to stop the water from hitting me, but
Right.
it is going to actually hurt a little less. And again, this is scientifically proven. If I get to hold a hand of another human being, and it's going to hurt even less again if I was whole. And when I say hurt, the actual terror and fear, right? I mean, the water hitting you is still going to be ow, right? But like it'll hurt even less again if I was holding the hand of my primary emotional bonding partner.
Yeah.
So look, life is going to throw big problems, small problems. It's just going to be dramatically easier if you're in a loving relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Like as the last 3 years has progressed, where, like Chase said, there's kind of like a new global crisis every week, and things feel out there externally sometimes really unsure. Like the one thing that I feel most sure about in my life is that I know that we make an incredible team. And then when we're connected and when we're, working on and fulfilled by us, everything externally seems like it's handleable. I don't know if that's a word, I just made it up, but it's like, we can handle this. I know that we can get through this because I know we make an incredible team, and I have so much confidence in this, in us. And you said it beautifully.
Look, I think that's wonderful. And and this is where like all of this can sound very woo-woo, right? And I spent my whole adult life, right? I lived at Esalen and Big Sur and Marin and San Francisco. So I know the woo-woo world really well, believe me.
Yeah.
I can do the deep hippie stare. I can put my hand in my heart and my tummy.
We love keeping one foot in that world.
Yeah,
exactly. No, I love it, right? But just to be clear, this stuff we're talking about is that all the issues life throws at you, big or small, is easier if you're in a loving relationship. It's just biology. Like it's not, there's no magic fairy dust, right? When you were born, your primary need is that there was another person on the other side of your birth, or you would die. Like it's just a fact, right? You could have all of the food in the world stacked up, and you could be in the perfectly temperature controlled room. And if there wasn't another human being, you're dead.
Yeah.
So that is fundamentally how your biology is still built, even though you're grown-ups. So again, so this is where like why all the songs are written. Why are 90% of the songs we listen to about love? Because from your first breath to your last breath, your biology is constantly looking out. Are they there? Are they there now? And are they there now? Now, you, again, might have ways that you don't think that's what's happening because you got your Netflix subscription, you got Amazon, Instacart, whatever it is, and you think you don't need people. But actually, deep down inside, we're an interdependent species. And we're going to feel dramatically better in the world if we're interconnected with other people.
God, that's so good. That's it's so distilled and down to something that simple, and it makes complete sense. And that is something, I consistently need to hear. A person who wants to do things on their own, hyper independent, at every crossroads of resistance, I would choose to do it myself instead of collaborating with others. And so that's a nutrient for me.
Can I speak to that for a second? Because here's this might be controversial for some people to hear.
I love it.
Alone time is not a primary need. Alone time is not a primary need. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with needing alone time. I need a lot of alone time. My wife and the kids have gone off hiking today. Woohoo! Right. But why is it good? It's because, right, contact with other. And remember, originally it is your birth mother, whoever happened to be there. If we look back 100,000 years ago on the African savannas, right? Your birth mother, or like the village that looked after you, right? Like if they're not there, you're in trouble. So that means they're unbelievably important to you. And so some of us, we get really overwhelmed by being in contact with our primary person. are primary persons, and we need space to recalibrate so that we can stay in contact. Right? So alone time is actually something we need, some of us, in order to be able to stay in contact.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's still actually a desire to be in contact. Is that, look, my wife could do 50 things in a day, literally. And I'm like, okay, calm down. I know you're excited today. And I swear, every day, right? She's Hawaiian, well, born in Hawaii. I'm from Ireland, right? I'll do 2 things because it's raining outside, always, right? Where I grew up. And she's like, we got 50 things to do. And I'm like, listen, I want to be with you. I want to connect with you. I just get overwhelmed quicker than you do.
Yeah.
I got to turn away so that I can come back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I need to stop eating so I can get hungry and eat.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had that mechanism, but that's a different problem. Right? Food is my drug of choice for sure.
Oh, yeah.
If we were at a cocktail party and I was having social anxiety, which of course I would, first, this part of my face would hurt from like having a smile glued on my face. And you wouldn't have to look for me at the bar, which I know is weird as an Irishman. I'd be at the food table.
Yeah.
I would just the little sausages. I would just be anxiously eating.
If it's on a toothpick, it doesn't count.
Yeah, right. And
exactly.
Food is the best buffer, right? Like when you're at a party, it's like, well, let's go hang out with the food.
I know it's terrible though. I end up feeling so bad like after cocktail parties now because I ate too much.
Well, I love that perspective because it's a great way to think. I think more so like the masculine, and of course I'm speaking generally, but I feel like what we see, what we experience more so is the masculine in general needing more space, recharge time, maybe not alone time for the sake of being alone, but like I need stillness so that I can recharge my battery and reemerge into my relationship at 100%, so that I can show up and experience what I want to experience in a relationship and give my partner what they want to receive.
Exactly. Well, and so let's go a little step deeper, right? A little step deeper. Imagine, let's say the masculine. Let's just say, for the example, we'll just say a little boy, right? Because I can't keep all the pronouns straight all the time, right? So let's just say he's a little boy, and he grows up. He's born into a world, and we're going to say this is a birth mother, right? And the birth mother is everything. Now, this is true for boys and girls. Everything, right? And in fact, right, completely dependent for their survival, right? Now, the feelings of the mother are so important. For some of us, it becomes really overwhelming, right? To the point where I really need them to be happy for me to be okay, which is a fact, right? It's not like some just a psychological thing. If they're not okay, I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, 50% of the population, let's say, gets overwhelmed because they're looking out at the world so much to make sure everything outside them is okay that they don't know how to feel themselves. And so the only way they're going to be able to feel themselves is they have to stop looking out and actually, hey, I need to actually be with myself for a minute here because I don't know how to feel and access myself while I'm in contact with you. Now, a lifetime of that, right? The person that they're turning their eyes on now, let's say they've grown up and they're in a long-term relationship and their partner wants contact all the time. Look in my eyes, let's connect. I have the Barry White music on, whatever it is that, you do your prima diva, whatever the hell their names are, right? Whatever your connection music of choice is, right? And they're not able to do it, right? That's not because they don't love you. Now, they mightn't even realize it themselves. It's because they love you so much that they actually are overwhelmed by the contact. Now, just think about what a difference, right? Imagine a couple that comes to see me and the story is, right? We'll just do, again, heterosexual couple, just for sake of example, right? The woman is the one that I want more contact. I just need to more emphasis on our love. Right. And they're validly suffering, right? Because they're not getting everything they need. And the guy's like, Jesus, I'm a disappointment all the time. They both bought into this story, hook, line, and sinker. Both of them are living inside a narrative of what's happening between them that is not actually true. It's just a narrative that everybody has been sold, right? Oh, the guy's going to want to watch football on Sunday.
Yeah.
right? And the woman wants to like bitch and moan after yoga, right? But actually, it's not what's happening, right? They're both valid. Of course, you'd be hurting when your partner averts their eyes when you try and talk to them. And come here, the guy, of course, you'd avert your eyes because it's really overwhelming and it's quite a risk that you're going to be a disappointment to your partner when they look at you to see if you're there. God bless both your little hearts. Universe bless them. I don't have a say in the matter, God or universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that fear of failure. I mean, speaking from the male perspective, where especially myself, that's a theme across every single lane of my life. But of course, it trickles into relationships, and it has nothing to do with whether or not that I'm madly in love with this human being. It's I might know where the current state of my battery is at, such that if I step into this arena we call a relationship, I may not be successful. And for my own protection mechanism, I might seem distant, cold, or emotionless out of sheer just self-preservation.
Right. And this is the thing, like, who even knows that, right? Most of this stuff, like, let's say the first step in for self-development is just awareness you're doing it. You're not even gonna, let's not even bother trying to change it, right? Like, I'm a big believer, like, when I help people, I don't help them change their behaviors. I just help them grow in awareness and feel deeply what's happening. And out of that awareness, like, grows empathy, compassion, and then our behaviors change. We actually don't have to work on behavior change. It just happens, right? I know it sounds weird, but how amazing that you know that, right? You know, Chase, that's incredible, right? You know, look, it's not that I don't want to be with you. I just get overwhelmed. My battery gets low, right? What an incredibly connectful thing to be able to say to your partner. Now, it might take a little bit of work for your partner to go, like, to believe it and trust it. I'm not talking about you, Mimi, in general, right? You know, you believe it. But yeah, it takes a little work to really step into this, you know, attachment theory explanation of why we feel the way we do and why we have distress in relationships. Because the last thing I'll just say on this is relationship distress. If you love each other, distress is a feature, not a bug.
Yes. Yeah, it's inevitable.
It's inevitable because, again, let's say everything I said is true, right? From the moment you're born, if your primary person is not there for you, dingoes are going to come. For the older listeners, a dingo will come and eat you, right? Meryl Streep movie, real story from Australia. Sorry for the younger listeners, right? Look it up, right? Babies got eaten by dingoes.
Yeah.
Supposedly, right? Now.
It's out of Africa, by the way?
No, it wasn't out of Africa,
damn.
Okay, But okay, so look, if everything I said is true, right, that means that what a real definition of love is, there's two equations. Now, there's slight variations, but there's two equations of what love is. One, you're so important to me that if it looks like you're not there, I'm experiencing physiological distress, whether I'm conscious of it or not. Right? Equation number one. Equation number two of what love is, from a biological point of view, you're so important to me that if it looks like you're disappointed in me, I'm actually experiencing physiological distress, whether I look like it to myself or you on the outside.
Yeah.
So now, if I have a couple in front of me, just imagine a couple, and that's what they're experiencing. One person is, I don't understand why you go to the pub instead of spending time with me. And the other person is, how come you're always meh, meh, meh? Right? They actually think they're having a terrible relationship because they don't understand. They don't understand. When I see that happen, I go, brilliant. This is a couple I could help. Because I go, do I have the two equations of what love is? Absolutely. They're just not experiencing it in this kind of way of framing it yet. Because when you experience it this way, imagine that couple of reasons. Like, hey, come here. The reason I keep asking you why I'm you prioritizing the relationship because I love you so much. I get so scared you're not here. And the other person is like, you know, the way I go, meh, meh, meh. The reason I make that gesture to you is I hurt so much when I'm disappointed to you. And then they look at each other and one of them says, which is the name of our podcast, by the way, myself and my wife, come here to me. And the other one goes, no, you come here to me. And they hug, forgive my French, they hug the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we can face the tsunami that's coming.
Mhm. Yeah, too. And I love that. I love that approach. I've honestly never heard anyone phrase it like that. And we've seen some of your content and listened to some of your episodes. And this is a basic core value of your teaching and your what you're offering to the world is like a realization that the reason why you're fighting is because you love each other, not because you're both broken and dysfunctional and you're not meant to be together. It may be because you actually love each other so much.
Oh yeah, it's definitely because you love each other so much. Your worst behaviors are actually the doorways to your most beautiful, lovable parts of you. And the same is true for your partner.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
look, there's no doubt, let's be clear, if there's domestic violence or risk of domestic violence,
Sure.
you shouldn't be doing couples counseling, right? There's also, let's say you gotta be inside your window of tolerance. So domestic violence would be one example of, we can't study what's happening in your relationship, because when we do, you get outside your window of tolerance that you're then hurt yourself or the other person, right? Hurting both of you, right? So there are definitely relationships that we're both so traumatized, one of us or both of us are so traumatized that we can't do the work. We got to do work on our own to get to a place that we could tolerate doing the relationship work.
Yeah.
All couples work is trauma work. So this is what's really like all couples work. So again, if it's fundamental that we need to be emotionally bonded or we'll die, basically what happens when you find your primary person and your heart goes, oh, I love this person. Right? Because you see in their eyes, it looks like they're here. Oh, this is awesome. And the other person's like, oh my God, this person's not disappointed in me.
Yeah.
Let's do this. And then we fast forward 6 months later, you're driving down the freeway and the person that's like, it looks like they're here for me. They go, hey, did you see that buffalo over there? And their partner was having a little daydream. And they go, did you not hear me? And then the partner goes, oh, no. I was just daydreaming. And so now it starts. It kicks in. I thought you said you were always going to be here. I thought you said me having a daydream wasn't going to be a disappointment for you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's a feature, not a bug. But both people now have this story. You're starting to let me down already. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. Oh, now I'm a disappointment. And now they make choices and decisions that build over time. Fine, then. Well, let me send you an article I read in Cosmopolitan about how I deserve to be loved like a queen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why don't I not read that article and show you it like being through the paper shredder, right? In response or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is so good because you're describing this kind of back and forth dance that so many couples get into and they don't even realize, which again goes back to consciousness and awareness of what's actually going on. And just to back up a little bit, we took the relationship quiz on your website.
Wow, you guys really I'm getting nervous. You know me better than I know me.
No, it's so good. It was, holy crap, just so potent and unique. I've taken a lot of like online quizzes and things, especially in like the relationship space, masculine and feminine. This was so unique. This is a call out to any listener right now. Even if you're single, like just go to the website and run through it. It's incredible. And so as we were
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, it's amazing. And as we're reading our results, I see that you are, kind of leading the reader towards a concept that you're summarizing right now that you call this waltz of pain, where it's just kind of like back and forth, tit for tat, merry-go-round that couples get onto, and it becomes a real source of problems in the relationship. And so I was wondering, can you go into this waltz of pain? And explain what that is and how you explained how it manifests, but go a little bit deeper into this concept, the waltz of pain.
So all couples get into negative cycles with each other, and not to be too complicated again, like it's a positive feedback loop that your actions beget the actions of your partner and on and on and on and on. And on the reactive part of the cycle, we're not talking about what the vulnerable, valid part of both of you. right? On the reactive part of your cycle, you're both doing three things, right? And number one is you have a negative view of your partner because you see them as withholding love from you, right? So if you're not feeling prioritized, you see the other person as an uncaring, cold, meat, right? So you have a negative view of them. You're in a reactive, so that's one. Two, you're in a reactive emotion. And a reactive emotion, a secondary emotion, is versus a primary emotion. A primary emotion is vulnerable, and it's something that it's a feeling I'm having. A reactive emotion is an emotion you're having because of the other person. I'm angry at you. I'm frustrated with you. You've disappointed me. Right. And it even could be sad. This is without getting too complicated. A lot of people think they're in primary emotion. I'm in my sadness. But, I don't know if you know the difference. Like, I'm so sad. I'm really in touch with how abandoned I feel is very different from you've made me so sad.
Yeah.
Right? So the person, this is very confusing. The person thinks I'm so deep in primary. I'm so vulnerable right now. But because you're an asshole. Right?
Yeah.
They're not really in primary emotion, right?
Yeah.
It's still mixed up with the frustration of the other person. So that's number two, reactive emotion. And then number three, then you actually take action like that is informed by your negative view, one of the other person, your reactive emotion. And now the next thing you do, even though it's going to seem completely logical to you, right, is going to be a behavior or an action that is going to it's going to hurt your partner. Because you're their primary person. It's going to really hurt. And so now they're going to have a negative view of you. One, they're going to have a reactive emotion, and that's going to actually inform the behavior they do. Right. So you think, let's imagine, right? You think your partner's uncaring, negative view of them. You're frustrated with them. I'm going to give them some advice right now. Is your three, your action, right? So they're now going to see you as you're a little bossy, a little controlling. Number one, negative view of you. This is really confusing. I don't even know what I did wrong, right? And then three, well, I think I'll put my earphones in.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what it forms, which now the first person got confirmation of their negative view. Well, I just got more evidence you are uncaring, right? Two, right? I'm even more frustrated. Three, I have a little more advice for you, my friend. Right. and the reason we call it the Waltz of Pain, right? Waltz, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. One is the dances I would have done with my mother as a kid, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And so on and on the couple dance, right? Now, the way out of that, like I said, it's not about changing each other's behaviors, yourself or the other person. The way out is both of those people doing that Waltz of Pain. There are two parts in the system, but you're embedded in the system, so you can't see the whole system.
Right.
The way out is you buy a drone from Amazon, like on the day, like isn't it the sales right now, right? You buy a drone and you like fly that drone above the two of you. Okay, don't take this so literally. People are like drone from Amazon. Right?
Relationship
on
drone.
list, right? Oh yeah, imagine all the guys now. If there's any guys, isn't this? They're like, dude, I love this. I get to buy drones to help my relationship.
Right.
But anyway, so you need the bird's eye view, the drone's eye view of look at this negative waltz of pain we're creating with each other.
Yeah.
It's both of us. It's an us problem, not a me or a you problem.
Yeah, it's scorekeeping, and I say this all the time about my parents' relationship. God, I love them so much, but I'm like, guys, you're playing a game you've both already lost.
Right. And everybody loses. That's great. I love
this
that.
Scorekeeping game, where it's already over. Like both teams have already lost in this circumstance. Why do you keep keeping a tally? But it's just wildly important. A practice that was really impactful to me as we, had our own reconciliation after we divorced, was just, and it sparked a memory for me as you used the drone analogy, where I would, consider myself a fly on the wall of an argument that was taking place between, Megan and I, and would forget that was me on the other side of it, and just simply watch how she was reacting to the things that were being said to her. And I found myself, again, unattached from the fact that that's me, pissed at whoever is on the other side of that, because I'm watching how she feels. And again, I think it's kind of like this foundation that what we've been able to get from your work thus far and some of the shows that we've listened to you speak on is the importance of empathy and the importance of compassion.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And so here, one of the things that I would say, so probably the most revolutionary part of the work, and it's hard to explain it, like you got to like feel it, is the transition, what I call the transition from I consciousness to we consciousness. And so just think of it in your relationship. There are three entities. I really dramatically do the three fingers because sometimes I hold up the wrong number of fingers. I've hit that age, so I have to I have to see them in the, like, if you want, I have to actually see them in the screen to make sure I have the right number of fingers up. Okay, three entities, right? Each of you is individuals, 1 and 2, and then there's the system that's both of you. So let's put in order of the most important entity to have relationship with. Least, they're all important, right? But the big revolutionary change is having empathy for the system, for us. So one of the ways, like I put this is, like you little kids, like bubbles, you dip your little bubble maker in the bubble water. I'm not, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Mystery stuff.
Exactly. Thank you. And so you blow out and 2 little bubbles come, right? So these are 2 little suffering bubbles, right? 2 separate suffering bubbles. I'm suffering, being disconnected, and the other person's suffering, right? And they're floating along. And sometimes 2 suffering bubbles come together and they join together and they create one bigger suffering bubble. Look at the way we are suffering.
Yeah.
And again, remember the punchline. Why are we suffering? Remember,
because we love each other.
We love each other. So that's it. That transition from you're just embedded in your own story of I'm suffering, and even the jump from, oh, I see you're suffering. There's still eyes, right? The key transformational part, and this is where I often say it's literally the equivalent of a creature living in a 2-dimensional world starting to live in a 3-dimensional world. It's that big of a shift, how you experience the world. Is you see, whoa, look at this. Look at these 2 people from the drone's eye view that love each other, and they're both actually trying to get out of pain right now, but both of them are making it worse. Oh my God, bless their little hearts.
Yeah.
Right? They're hurting so much. I just love both of them. Right. And that's what I do as a couples therapist. I can see it reflected to them, and then they start to feel it with each other. And the next thing you know, one of them kind of like, they kind of put the other one in a headlock and rub the top of their head, and then the other one grabs their cheeks and and they feel safer with each other, right? So it's that empathy for us. Yes, we want empathy for yourself and the other person, but the big revolutionary shift is, look at the way we are hurting because we're so important to each other.
Yeah.
This is great. And I think we've had a little, preview thus far of what Figs is all about and some of your work. Obviously you mentioned you're working with couples. You've got a podcast with your wife. So maybe we can back up a little bit, and this would be a good time to, briefly explain, what it is you do in the world today, and really what brought you to this work. Briefly getting into a little bit of your backstory and what gives you this passion to impact the world in this way.
Well, thank you for asking. The reason I do podcast interviews because my wife, my kids, they do not want to listen to me. So like I go on other people's shows because this is the only chance I have. Like I'm 51, right? So I'm white, right? I look like Shrek, bald for the listeners. So like when I go to the coffee shop, no one at the they're like, what? Just get your coffee and move on. Right. So I have to talk to kind people like yourselves. Right. So thank you very much for asking. So, like I said, I'm from Ireland. Typical, right, the alcoholic dad. My mother's heartbroken, like so strong, like so much love and gratitude for my mother, what she did to raise my sister and I. And therein lies what I carry with me inside of me. Right. So I spent a lot of my teens and 20s idolizing women, like, heaven forbid, like I had any kind of expression of real masculinity in sex or anything like that, right? Because the feminine was sacred.
Mm.
This is my hero, right? The Madonna, right? And then of course I was a stockbroker and bartender in San Francisco in my early 30s. That kind of fixed that idea. Bartending. Bartenders in America, you're on stage, right? It's like you're a celebrity. And and so anyway, so I got to actually try and seek validation through sex and intimacy. And very lucky I got to try it because, and find out, just like M&Ms for dinner, it's not particularly nourishing and did not make me feel very good.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
So it was good, right? So I got to work out the old Irish drinking, gambling, womanizing, trying to like be lovable, didn't work very well. And then I moved to Esalen. And Esalen is kind of like the Harvard of the human potential movement, all this personal development stuff. Most of it was born out of Esalen retreat center, not far up the coast from you, right? A few hours, right? And so I was very lucky that I got invited to live there as part of the community. And I got to study with all these amazing teachers that come through there, right? So I had to work 32 hours a week. You got to have some value. And then I got to study improvisational theater, dance, like therapy, you name it, everything but painting. I can't paint. I'm not going to beat myself up about that right now. So I think of Esalen as my third parent. It was the first time I remember sitting in a group meeting, right? And like, you have to share how you're feeling. And I started talking about the story of my life, what the latest stuff I was dealing with. And the facilitator stopped me and said, sorry, Figs, one sec. Look, you were asked how you're feeling. Let me give you a little hint. Feelings are sensations in your body. What's actually happening inside you right now? And I was like, look, 33 years old. I'd never, ever consciously, instead of describing the world outside me and the story of my life, actually gone, well, hold on a second. What's actually happening inside of me? I just access to a whole new universe. And so from that, I did mostly work on myself, like trying to heal wounding and stuff. And eventually gave up all of the trying to make money as a stockbroker and business development for startups, and went back to school to become a therapist, which was really nerve-wracking because I was really convinced like I had to make money, and broken family, economic insecurity as a kid. Like I really had to make money, right? That was, not an inspiration-based like desire of mine. And so I was really unsure about it until I started sitting with clients. And I was just like, this is amazing. I just loved it instantly as soon as I started sitting with clients. And then of course I still have the financial insecurity part. So I'm a little different than other therapists, that I would be a therapist during the day and then I would fall asleep working on developing a business at 2 a.m. on the computer. I'd meet other therapists and they'd be like, hey, like, how are you doing at finding who your ideal client is? And I'm like, shut up. I'm busy building websites over here, or else I'll die. Right. So other therapists are scared of me, right? Because I'm like, listen, this is very serious. It's therapy business, right?
Yeah.
And so, but luckily I was successful enough that I had more people reaching out. And so now I have a business where, I trained my wife. She was into it, all this kind of attachment-based stuff, and started off training my wife, friends. And anyway, today we have like over 20 therapists and, all, like you said, the quiz courses, podcasts. And it's just amazing to like get to make a living, like helping people love each other. And every session I do is really good for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because they, you know, like it's a practice, right? It's use it or lose it, right? I could be in a fight with my wife just before a session. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, oh, I'll fight longer than you, right? Because I'm a wounded human being. And then I do a session with a couple, and I see their cycle, and I'm feeling so sad for both of them, and their behavior makes sense. And then after the session, I'm able to go back to my wife and go, oh, come here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's unbelievable to do work that's good for me, helps other people. And I'm not as scared that I'm going to die on the street homeless.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I totally, although we're not couples therapists, just getting to interact with people like yourself, different experts and thought leaders
And our
and
listeners
and,
as well.
yeah, and just like getting to interact that way, we're learning together and offering that as a gift to our listeners, but we're also benefiting from talking to you right now.
Well, thank you.
So
Thank you. I want that this part of the recording is the one that I'm gonna clip and send to my wife.
yeah.
There's that
Right.
part where you said you're actually enjoying and benefiting
Yeah.
talking to me. I'm gonna
Yeah.
send it to her. But come
Yeah.
here, by the way, one of the main missions of Empathy, you know, the companies, and it's Empathy with an I in the end, not a Y in the end.com. I couldn't afford Empathy with a Y in the end.com.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the guy wouldn't sell it to me anyway. So I didn't have to get embarrassed by finding out just how much money it was. But the whole mission of Empathy is like, look, you're not mentally ill. You're not sick if you're having problems in your relationship. So look, I am a couples therapist, but my goal is actually that people don't have to see someone that's part of the healthcare establishment because they're having relationship problems, right? And like, again, it's not just like you don't have to go see a doctor, right, to go get physically fit.
Yes.
It'd be like a coach, right? But look, there is right now people have a relationship problem. The good news is they know they don't look up that particular problem. They go couples counseling. And so they end up seeing someone part of the medical establishment, right? Because that's who couples counselors are. But the long-term goal is to make people learning this stuff and their relationship just really normal. And they don't have to go see a quote unquote doctor that sees sick people.
Yeah.
Right. Because it doesn't make sense, right? This is just like you do meditation, just like you try and exercise. Working on your relationship is just a normal thing people should do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that kind of pointing back to highlighting, like, speaking to Chase and I, when we got back together in part 2 of our relationship, as we call it, it was complete DIY. We didn't go, although I know there's immense value, as I'm talking to a couples therapist, I know there's immense value in that. But we wanted to work on our shit together alone first before we involved another person. And I know that not everyone approaches it that way, but I think that there is immense value in having an unbiased third party, especially someone like yourself. I'll just say, like, you're relatable. You seem like someone that, you know, a lot of people could just be friends with. You don't seem like a buttoned up, like, psychologist type where you're going to be.
I don't even have any buttons. I mean, I haven't worn shoes. No, is there, like, you know, I haven't worn shoes in 3 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're a tribe.
No, but you're right. Look, part of what's great to be a really good couples therapist, you have to be able, this is the way I often say it, right? You got to be able to have conversations in a bar or a coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then you got to be able to have conversations, and I'm not religious, right? But you got to then be able to, the same people you were just chatting with in the bar or coffee shop, you got to, like, slowly maneuver them into a cathedral. And now we're going to talk inside the main body of the cathedral. And then you got to be comfortable. So you're only hearing me now talk as the coffee shop bar person, right? Because it's fun, right? But eventually, we're working together, and it would just happen organically. Now we'd be having a conversation in a cathedral where your vulnerable parts will be saved. So it's a very different type of conversation. Yeah. And then there's another part, right, of the cathedral the altar, and then there's that room at the back where it's really sacred. And so now we're going to have a conversation where those most vulnerable ones of you get to be spoken to like they're being spoken to by the most loving mother in the world, which again, I know like someone 6'3", 230, Shrek looking, it's hard to believe I have conversations like that with people. But that's like, so I love that you have to be able to do all of it, relate to people. Hey, let's have a chat. Let's get to know each other. But then eventually we're going to have to access and talk to the most vulnerable parts of you and help them get the love that they've been longing for all along. And the most amazing thing about couples counseling versus individual counseling, when it's individual counseling, it's the relationship between me and the client. But when it's couples counseling, what I'm trying to do is create the experience, kind of march the couple to this threshold of experience where you can give each other the love that you've longed for the most and is most vulnerable. And you also have the most nourishment barriers to actually letting in and trusting. But we actually make that happen for reals in a living, breathing moment of time. And that's the craft of the work. Right. I love talking about it and explaining it. But just like if let's say you wanted to learn how to ride a bike, it's great to have someone that can talk about how to ride a bike. But ultimately, we're going to have to get on the bike and it's going to be really scary. And you're probably going to fall a couple of times. Right. But once we get it in your bodies, you get the experience. You'll have it forever.
Yeah. No, I love that. And what it sounds like is you just have, such a pulse of the current climate and the relationship climate at large. It's the last few years, the world has just changed radically. And I'm curious, to hear from you, what are you seeing as the most relevant relationship challenges, both for singles and for in kind of the dating realm, as well as for people who are in relationship, whether that be marriage or just a committed, more longer term relationship? What are you seeing as the current challenges? Are they different than they were before?
Well, I think, it's interesting. I'll tell you what annoys me, right? I'll tell you what annoys me is a couple of trends that annoy me, right? Look, negative messages. What people want and what they need are different things, right? So let's say everything I just said, right? I used to answer questions on Quora. Let's say someone writes and says, like my partner wants me to give up cross country. I actually I wrote an answer to this. Like they don't like me doing cross country running. Like what am I going to do? Right? There's 100 answers. 99 answers are, you need to dump that girl. You deserve better than that. Don't you give up on being you. And let's say I write one answer. Hey, listen, it sounds like they're not feeling prioritized. I don't think this is about cross country. This sounds really hard for you. And I imagine she's really hurting. I could really see how you're both having a hard time. Right? Well, that's not very satisfying. Right? That's just not very satisfying. The people reading online, they want to hear like, yeah, dump them. I'll help you. Right? Yeah. People want to be validated. So look, crap sells. Yeah. This is the problem. And so look, I'll tell you what my most annoying is at the moment. Now, for centuries, women were being labeled hysterical. Wrong. Terrible. Wrong. Label them women as hysterical, labeling people as borderline, especially women as borderline. That happens. Just wrong. Stop it. Today, we have a trend of labeling men and women, but men, right, as narcissists, and they have ADHD, right? What the fuck? Yeah. Right? And you know why it's expanding? Because it sells. Yep. Yeah. It's validating the listener and the viewer. Are you kidding me? Like, you know how many times I've met a narcissistic person in my office? Like, I've done this now for like 15 years. I've done like 35,000 hours of therapy. Yes, I've had 5 or 6 narcissists. Do you know how many times people come in saying my partner's a narcissist? Yeah. You know how easy it is for a therapist or someone to label the other person because they're like, it's hard for me to stay in contact as having ADHD. Like, just stop.
Right.
But hey, come here. That is pizza. Someone that is labeling people as narcissists and creating videos on TikTok, they're selling pepperoni pizza. Stuff tastes so good.
Yep.
Right. Whereas the real medicine, right? You know, if you're, let's just say salad, right? I freaking make and sell salad. Like I don't want to eat salad. When my wife says we're going for dinner and she tells me we're going to a salad place, I'm like, I'm not going. You totally, that's a bait and switch. You do not tell me we're going for dinner and then take me to a salad place. It's bullshit. Right. But do I need salad? You better believe it. Salad's what I need. I do not actually need any more pepperoni pizza.
Right.
So look, negative messaging sells, right? And so this is the Andrew Tates of the world. On the flip side, so look, I can feel bad. I don't feel good about myself. So I'm going to like now create a really big persona. Boom. I'm going to hit my chest and look at me, and no one's going to take advantage of me. I don't drop into my vulnerability. I actually move further away from it. So, okay. Look, all of these messages have always been here, but social media amplifies pizza and M&Ms. And it's very hard for salad to rise to the surface.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go. There's my...
Which is why we need more long form conversation and people engaging in education, long form, podcasts or video or whatever, because you're not going to get what you need from a nourishment standpoint, tools in your relationship from headlines, TikTok videos that are 60 seconds long. It takes more effort and more intention, of acquiring the tools. And I love that we're right there with you. We're all making a salad together.
Exactly. No, I know. And look, yeah, it's... But look, I'm a big YouTube person. I consume a lot of YouTube content. Rugby, Bitcoin, right? In particular, and philosophy. But it's incredible how easy it is to get sucked into the YouTube shorts.
Yep.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I don't go on planning on watching kittens and like run over ice and fall, right? But like I'm about to learn something, but 30 minutes later, I find myself like laughing at kittens falling off a chair or something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, let's go back into the relationship cathedral. I would love to hear some pieces of mainstream relationship advice that you just flat out don't agree with. Either maybe they're overrated, maybe like premarital counseling, and maybe some pieces of advice that are underrated that you're going to make sure that your kids understand about relationships.
Yeah, well, so I would say the most important one is so let's say you only had two things you could spend your energy on. One is being good in your relationship. Either you're making yourself good or your partner good, right? I mean, you're going to change your behavior. Let's say if you're a criticizer, I'm just going to criticize less. I'm just going to criticize less, right? Or if you're a shutter downer, right? Fantasy, American football, fantasy league person, right? Like I'm not going to go into my own thing. I'm going to actually connect more, right? Whatever it is, so that's one that you're going to work on behavior change. The second one is I'm going to work on repairing after we've had a disconnection. Most people believe you're better off working on being good. And it's less important to work on the repair after disconnection. Because again, remember, disconnection is not a bug, it's a feature of love because you're so important to each other. So the magic of a relationship comes in the repair. The real work of relationship, if you had, let's say, 10 units of energy to spend on having a better relationship, spend the 10 units on trying to go from bad back to good, not on trying to stay in good. Right? That makes sense, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, because remember, getting in an infinity loop, I'm hurting, so I react, and my reaction hurts you, and so you react, and we do this infinity loop with each other. That's what two people that love each other do. And so you want to see it as soon as possible, so you do as little damage and for as little amount of time as possible, right? And realize why it's happening. Oh my God, this is happening because we love each other. And then, fingers crossed, now that I see it, I know this is only happening because we both love each other, I'm going to give me and you a chance to repair.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you the love you needed that I wasn't there to give you for the last 30 minutes we were fighting. And the other person the same. I now see that you weren't feeling loved by me, and I'm going to give you that love. And again, remember, technical term, now we love the shit out of each other in minute 31.
Yeah.
And now we're back in the good basket.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. But guess what's coming? Definitely another bad basket. So your job, there's only 3 baskets your relationship can be in: the good basket, the bad basket, or the ugly basket. And your job is to make sure your relationship doesn't end up in the ugly basket. And the ugly basket is easy to describe. It's where you won't give yourself or your partner a chance to get back to good. Good and bad are inevitable. Just make sure you're always giving yourself and the other person a chance to repair after it got bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I think that that's so great. The good, the bad, and the ugly basket. The ugly being like things might be too far gone to repair.
Well, yeah, but even so, that's one, right? And look, it feels like it's too. Yeah, that's one case, right? But there's also, let's say, like my wife and I were fighting for 30 minutes, right? It's not giving you, let's say for 30 minutes, let's say I made 1 cup of coffee, she gets up and she sees like 1 cup of coffee. Like, well, what am I, like an orphan? Nothing against orphans, right? Because she speaks now with an Irish sensibility, okay? Right? But, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't want to wake you up. Like, how am I in trouble? And she's like, oh, well, thanks for considering me. And she goes, whatever, I'm off out. And I go, no, I'll make you one now. No, it's too late. And I'm like, God, whatever, there you go. Right? And she goes off for the day. And I go about my day. We did not give ourselves a chance to see, hey, we got in a cycle where it makes sense. She was hurting. Doesn't matter what my intention was. She woke up, so 1 cup of coffee, it actually makes sense. It hit that place inside her where she didn't feel considered. Ow! And no wonder she did a like, you disappointment, explicitly or implicitly. Now, the fact that that's what she did, even though it makes sense that her feelings were hurt, how awful. She's my person. Like, her being happy with me means everything. I'm in trouble again.
Yeah.
I want this for mom to be happy. Why is not happy? I'm devastated inside. So no wonder I say, oh my God, look, geez, don't get your knickers in a twist. Right? I minimize her feelings. I invalidate what she's feeling. Right? It totally makes sense. I would have done that, but it would have hurt her more. So neither of us would give ourselves or each other a chance to see it and see each of us are valid, and then soften our little limbic systems and hearts to each other. And then after she's left the house, I text her or call her and say, hey, listen, I totally make sense that it hurt when you saw 1 cup of coffee. And she's like, I know, I got really hurt. And I saw your poor little eyes. Your little heart was breaking when I was disappointed in you. And then because now we're in different places, she sends like, and because remember, we're older, right? Like, she does her best to send emojis. She can't do GIFs, right? She's just sending little love hearts and kisses. And I'm sending little, like the chick and the egg or something, right? Like, we're doing our best.
Yeah.
Times, right? So that's the key. Give each other a chance to repair.
Yeah, I think that that's such a critical point. And as you're speaking, I can think of times in Chase and I's relationship where, you know, we don't fight often. I don't even use that word fight. We sort of have like charged conversations. We're not yellers, we're not name callers, we're not belittlers, really. It's more of like we're disconnected and feelings are hurt, and so there's a charge that you can recognize.
Yeah, it's torture by distance and avoidance.
Yeah, it is. And I can think of a handful of times, you know, 90% of the time we are both solution oriented and we want to get to what we call the thing behind the thing. What are we actually upset about? It's not the dishes in the sink. It's not the socks on the floor. It's the fact that I didn't feel considered. That's the thing behind the thing.
Right.
So we're aware of that and we're trying to get to that. But there are rare occasions where sometimes one of us doesn't wave the white flag first. And so then we can recognize that, like, okay, we're both feeling some type of way, and we don't reach that coming together moment, coming back together moment that I think you would explain as like, that's kind of the ugly basket, where we're like, we can tell that something is off or disconnected. And when we don't come back together and like acknowledge each other's feelings, both of us, then we might go about our day separate or together, and we can still feel the awkward charge of that not being resolved.
Right.
And I think that some couples live in a perpetual, maybe not perpetual, it's not like every moment.
Oh, no, listen, absolutely. It
it
infuses
can happen
everything.
regularly.
Yeah.
It can happen regularly, and that starts to feel like that's just your relationship.
It's very sad, right? And so here's the thing. You don't even, this is where, like, by the way, two things, right? Not feeling considered and feeling, let's say, I'm a disappointment, right? And let's just call one is feeling abandoned and the other is feeling rejected. They always come together. Like when in a simple hack, if you're feeling not considered, the other person is feeling they're a disappointment. If you're feeling I'm a disappointment, or I'm already in trouble or about to be in trouble, the other person is feeling I'm either too much in your eyes, or I'm not important, I'm not a priority to you.
So
right?
true. God.
They always come, and a little more colorful way to say it, again, I'm really sorry for your listeners. Again, remember, I'm just an Irish Dublin street kid, right? If you walked into a bar and you saw abandonment having a drink at the bar on their own, hang out long enough, you'll see rejection is coming out of the toilet after taking a piss. They're always together, right? You don't have one. If you're really important to each other, you don't have one without the other. Even if the other person's behavior, it's very hard to see that someone that is a bitcher, moaner, complainer, criticizer, advice giver, all of those behaviors come from they're feeling alone inside and they're scared, right? And someone that looks shut down, unavailable, dissociating, defensive, all of those behaviors are coming from they actually feel bad about themselves because it's devastating to not be measuring up to their person.
It reminds me of a line I heard you say that I love so much, and I'm like taking it in, remembering in our relationship and other relationships around us, we're all puppies from the pound.
Oh, yeah.
And don't pretend that you're not one.
That's
I
great.
love that
forgot
so much.
Analogy. That's a good one. Yeah. We're all dogs from the pound. I love that, right? And that's if you think about it, we're all dogs from the pound, right? We all have trauma. All relationship is trauma work. We're all going to get scared that it looks like you're not there for me. You go get a dog from the pound and you bring it home and you're unbelievably nice to it. But one day you go to give it food and it sees a shadow go over their head, and their limbic system instantly thinks it's happening and going to be hurt, and they bark or try and snap at you. And you're like, that mean dog, I can't believe it. Well, they got scared. It's still in their body. They thought the worst thing was happening again. No wonder they snapped.
Yeah.
So whether that's the person is a shutter downer when you tell them, hey, you disappointed me yesterday, and it looks to you like they don't care, they don't listen. Come here. The reason they look like they don't care, they're not listening, is that's what they do to survive. They're surviving, feeling terrible inside. That's what they've learned to do. And of course, that's what society said a certain gender does to survive, right? Now, when your partner looks like they're moaning, complaining, right? They're actually really hurting inside. They're just surviving. They will protest until the cows come home. They will not give up trying to find you. Right? They're just doing everything they can not to be hurting inside. No bad people, just dogs from the pound.
Yeah. So what would you say, and for us, and we're using this example, like when these moments of charged conversation turn into this kind of cold, silent distance that always ends up going on too long. But I think for both parties, what's running through one's mind is, okay, am I going to be the one that kind of just like pops the bubble and says, we need to talk about this, it's going to be, maybe it's a sign of, I'm going to surrender. This is my white flag waving. It's going to be awkward. We're in the middle of something. This is not convenient. I'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
What advice, whether that be just strategy or, maybe it's phrases or words of encouragement that you would give to somebody in this situation? I think it's really common where the fight happens or something happens, and then you just have this prolonged period of coldness and depression.
Yeah, well, so there's so many different things to say, right? But let me try and the most important thing, again, remember, we want both of you to join each other in we consciousness. Remember what I mean by that is that we are in a cycle. We are both hurting and we are both stuck in a way that cannot get out of it. So let's say one of you is going to break the ice. The temptation is going to be to explain what I am feeling or my perception of what you did wrong. But even though your intention is to break the ice, it's not going to work very well. Because you're still like, oh, now you're going to tell me about how you're hurting. Oh, you're going to tell me what I did wrong. Well, great. Like, it's not even like you've got the best intentions in the world, but it won't land that well. We are both hurting and both of us can't get out of it right now. How, again, technical term, how shitty for both of us. Right? So, and this is an Irish expression. I never knew that Americans didn't understand this. We like, if you were going to take a risk, you say, I'm going to chance my arm. Right. And it comes from these two ancient Irish families that were fighting. And one of the families had the other family under siege, the O'Briens and the Murphys. The Murphys are stuck in their castle and the O'Briens are outside keeping the Murphys under siege. And eventually the O'Brien chieftain, after a month, said, that's enough of this crap. And he marched down to the gates of the Murphy castle and put his hand through the gate. Do you know what the Murphy chieftain did? Well, I'll tell you what he didn't do. He didn't chop it off. He shook his hand.
Yeah.
So one, and the siege ended. And now the Murphys and the O'Briens today are still drinking and sharing sheep and making cheese together, right? So anyway, okay, I went too far. I'm sorry. Okay, but so one of you is going to chance your arm. And it is chancing your arm because it could be chopped off. One of you is like, hey, I think we're in a cycle. We're both hurting and neither of us can get out of it. I think this is really awful for both of us. Now, the other person, they just put their arm out into no man's land and you do have an axe in your back pocket. Your job, do not chop their arm off.
Yeah.
Take their hand and shake it. Because what did they ask you? They didn't ask you to look at what you did wrong, or they didn't try and get you to just understand their feelings. They said, can you join me in seeing this siege really sucks for both of us? Don't get into the details. Details will freaking mess everything up. We're both hurt. This is all you need. You need the ability to understand what happened to a 4-year-old. Are we both hurting? Yes. Are both of us incapable of getting out of this? Yes. Feck it. Right? That's what we need to do.
Yeah. That's great.
You almost can like establish like a code word or a code phrase when like Chase and I both know when that moment is there. And I think everyone listening has had that where they're like, trying to do this dance and decide who's going to put their arm out. And it's hard sometimes to be the first one to do that. You do have to kind of drop a certain level of pride that is attached to your pain, which sometimes we don't want to do. We just don't want to. And so I think if you come up with like a code phrase, like, fixing the roof when the sun is shining, when things are good, when you're out on a date or at coffee or walking the beach together. And, you can like, what's our code word that we can say or, phrase, that we can, that's a little less, it's distance. It provides distance between you and the pain. And you can just say the phrase with a word. And it's like a cue to your partner that's like, we're both feeling shitty right now. And so maybe that's something that
so yeah, that's really good. Yeah. So naming, what we call naming your cycle, is very helpful. And remember, what is your cycle? The easiest way to understand it without getting, again, too many things to remember, there are four key elements in your cycle. One is partner one, right? Chase is hurting inside. So one is Chase is hurting inside because you're the most important person in the world. And while you're disconnected, it's devastating for him, even if you don't see it on the outside, right? He's hurting. Two, is there a behavior that Chase is engaged in to survive hurting so much? Whether that's now he's, or like resorting his Pokemon cards for the 15th time today, right? Whatever it is, right? Chase, I have no idea. I do not have anything pro or anti Pokemon cards. I'm just
all good.
Random. Yeah. Okay. So he's there's a behavior he's engaged in. Three, Mimi's really hurting inside because being connected to Chase is everything. And like that, like the foundation of my day has been like just taken from under my feet. Ow. And now four, there's a behavior, right? And now baking cakes, right? Oh, no, I'm happy baking cakes. No, it's fine. Whatever the behavior is, right? So would you look at us? Would you look at us? The more I bake cakes, the more Chase gets the message I'm a disappointment. The more I got to organize my Pokemon cards, the more I see organize your Pokemon cards, the more like alone I feel. So that I'm freaking baking the 8th cake of the day, right? So that like, and so that then hopefully you both one of you or both of you zooms out and sees, would you look at this system that is so painful for both of us? So the thing that you're risking your arm with is a story that both of you make sense. Both of you are hurting. Neither of you are the good person or the bad person. That's what you're being invited. So hopefully it is a much easier leap for your ego to make into we are hurting and we are both hurting each other versus let me take some time to really hear and understand the way you're hurting right now.
Yeah.
Right. So this is why, like, by the way, in couples counseling done this way, way before we ask people to deeply listen to the feelings and the needs of the other person, we have to get them to live inside of this world where we're both hurting and we both hurt each other. And it's only when we've established that, and we call it de-escalation, only when we've established that can we do long passes of now I could go to Mimi, tell me what happens when Chase is with his Pokemon cards all day, right? Like really dive in deeply. Or like, Chase, what happens when like you hear the huffing and puffing in the kitchen? Like, that's the 8th cake, Chase, right? She may not be critical, but tell me what it really feels like inside. What's going on, right? Like, so we got to establish a safe world that is a world that's safe for both of you. Like I always say, let's say you wanted to live where I live in Hawaii. Sorry, not to rub it in. Right? But let's say you wanted to live in Hawaii. Before we move to Hawaii, we got to go to Switzerland. We got to go to a neutral country.
Mm-hmm.
We're both hurting people. No one's bad. And we got to make sure we're really living in Switzerland. It's not just we're like in the airport and let's go now. Because everybody wants to get to like, no, I really need you to understand my feelings. Right. But no, not going to do that until we really know that you guys are in Switzerland. You went on a 2-week trip. You're stuffed with chocolate. You've seen some cows. You skied a little. Right. You bought a watch. Right. And really got to see the evidence that you truly are living in Switzerland.
Yeah. Meaning neutrality.
Sorry, yeah, I should make that obvious.
No,
neutral country,
really
right? Great. This is a safe, neutral place for both of you, and only then are we going to take these deep. Go have a conversation on the altar with one of you. Hey, tell me how you're hurting, because then the other person can be available. They're not now going to have to protect themselves, right? Because they're safe. They really hear you.
Totally. It's like you want to if you've got shoulder mobility, and I'm using a fitness example, it's kind of how we do it all the time. If you've got shoulder mobility issues, but you're trying to jump to bench pressing 250 pounds before you get to the point where you can do a push-up, like you're skipping the point that is critically baseline important for the ability to do a bench press, which would be, can you do a body weight push-up first? Can you get your shoulders into the position to be able to properly do a body weight push-up? Can't.
Yeah,
you're going to be stepping into something that is such such a far leap that you will be injuring yourself, or in this case, the relationship.
I love that. But by the way, on that exactly, I got really into, since I moved to Hawaii, outrigger canoeing.
Mm.
And the main like fitness exercise, right, for strength is pull-ups.
Yeah.
And I was so excited this year, like that I could do pull-ups, but I hurt my neck because I had really bad. Well, yeah, so I actually have to do a lot of scapula push-ups,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because all of those little muscles in my back, like instead, like I have to do all these little micro stabilizing muscle building up, and not before I can really lift myself up over the bar without hurting myself.
Yeah, it's called priming. It's all the priming.
Yeah, no, I love that. Exactly. And that's why, like, look, this is the other, like, nobody wants to do the work on de-escalation. They want to, right, they want to go to Hawaii. They don't actually, people don't like Switzerland anymore. Like, they just don't want to, like, why can't I just go to Hawaii?
Yeah.
Right. But if we try and go straight to Hawaii, the plane crashes. Sorry, that's really dark. That's what happens.
That's okay. I see what you're saying.
But look, yeah, the plane you're not going to make it to Hawaii if you try and get there directly, right? We got to go to this neutral place first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Exactly. I like that.
Yes. And I think, yeah, the way that we prime and get to a place of neutrality is practice and putting yourself into a place where you can find a space where you're open to hear the other person's pain, hear about the other person's pain, and just, admit that, like, it sucks right now. It sucks for us both.
For both of us, right? That's the thing. Right, yeah, this is where, like, it's a really revolutionary idea. It's hard to really, really grasp it and take it in. Not just listen to the other person, but like really holding, both of us are hurting, and both of us unintentionally are now reacting and behaving in ways that are so hard for the other person.
Well, I this is great, and I'm sure you get all sorts of different couples that you talk to and talk with and advise and help, but there's got to be experiences or times where you can see that it's just maybe not going to work out for these two, or they decide that it's not going to work out. This is a question that we get all the time, kind of being in the relationship and intimacy space, is how do you know when it's over, and how do you know when you're just being pushed to the edge of self-development, and this is your next thing that you need to move through to really evolve yourself in the relationship?
Right. That's a great question. So here's why I say it is how do you know? Have you ever, so for your listeners or viewers, right? Have you ever actually tried to look at your relationship and what's happening inside of your partner, and what you're co-creating with each other through this attachment theory and systems theory perspective? If you can say, absolutely, I am an expert at understanding what my own vulnerability is, why I behave the way I do, what my partner's vulnerability is, why they behave the way they do, and how we create this positive feedback loop that is so painful for both of us because of the way we're so important to each other. You have that down, and then you still go, oh, I guess it's not going to work out. Great. What an amazing place to know is isn't right. There's too much water under the bridge. But that's the place to make the decision. Mm-hmm. Most people have never been exposed to like what I just told you, and have never had someone guide them through it so that they at least experience, wait a second, what's actually happening is I have a subjective experience in a story of what's happening. My partner has a subjective experience of what's happening. They're both right, and they both combine together to make something that's even more right than both of our individual perspectives. If you live inside of that and you're still not drawn to love the shit out of each other, then do a two-way fist bump, say goodbye to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I bet you, if you get to that threshold of experience that you both see what the way you've been hurting and how tragic it is, The reason you've been hurting is because you love each other. And if we get you to that experience, that is where you have the greatest chance to re-find each other and end up even deeper in love than you were when you first met each other.
Yeah. And I'll follow that question up with, my assumption is that it takes a collaborative effort and some level of mutual agreement to partake in these types of modalities for healing the relationship.
Yeah, but even that, right? Not as much as you think, right? Just like, here's the way, let's say I wanted to invite you guys to go to a roller coaster park, right? Whatever they're called, amusement park, right?
Theme park.
Look, you don't have to be excited about it. Like, I wake you up in the morning, like, for flip's sake, figs, I just want to sleep in. And I was like, just get in the car. And you like, get in the car grumbling. That's fine. We get out of the car and you see the line for the tickets and you're like, for flip's sake. Just get in the amusement park. It's fine. You get on the roller coaster, you're like, I hate this. It makes my stomach turn. Fine. Just whatever you could do to get both of you in the process. And then the process will look after like the results.
Okay.
You don't have to be excited. I think one of the things people get themselves in trouble. Like, again, think of if everything I said is true. You're so important to me that when it looks like you're disappointment with me, I feel like shit and I don't want to do anything, right? It's too high a bar for that person to be, oh, I'm so excited about going and working on my relationship to find out how I'm really a disappointment to you. They're not going to be excited. Now, interestingly, the person that feels like that in the relationship, they often have gains much quicker than the one that already thinks they're like, I'm actually unbelievably good at expressing my feelings. And therapy is my domain. Because that person is often in for a bigger shock with the system story. Because the system story is, hey, come here, you're not actually all good, nor is your partner all bad. It's both of you together. That person is going to have often they're like, wait a second, could someone hold me up? Wait a second, right? The world I've been living in isn't actually that's not reality. Whereas the person that's been the bad one, like the person that you would have thought there's no way they'll be into couples counseling, if you get them in the door and all of a sudden they hear like, you're not all bad, you make a lot of sense, you're really lovable, let's make some space for you to feel your feelings the way you feel them. They don't have to look like an emotional pursuer. You don't have to be crying and like painting your feelings or writing poems of the painting. Right? Like, it's okay. You like, just the way you are is perfect. That person will shine and blossom in therapy. So just get in the door. I always say, if your relationship is having trouble, right? Your job, get the person into the first session with someone that knows what they're doing. Don't ask for more. This is back from my days as a stockbroker. Get the order and then shut up. Stop talking. Get out of the person's office after they've given you the check. Do not say another word. Ask for one session and then let the actual therapist do their thing to actually get the person that is probably like, really, come on, why are we just watching our next show on Netflix? Why are we talking to this person?
Well, and this is such a good point, and it trickles into what we were talking about earlier. There is so much content available that is not from necessarily an experienced professional who knows exactly what they're doing. Right. So you may not be leading someone into a theme park. You may be leading someone into just a merry-go-round that's not going to give them the experience that would actually be transformational. Because we've got TikTok influencers, YouTubers, we've got bite-sized 5-second clips that are making and validating the person who is aware of the need for something larger in the relationship. And we see it all the time, quite practically, where people are asking, how do I get, and it's usually females or the feminine, how do I get him into the work? How do I get him interested in this?
One session. Get him into one session. And then here's what I always tell people to tell their partner. This is true. I have 100% record. No one has ever died in a first session. Right? Everyone gets out alive. And look, let's say they really hate it. Just think they're going to get to feel like a little spring lamb. Like, I spent a bit of my childhood on a farm. Do you ever see what a lamb looks like after you release them after they were getting medicine and jumping and spring? They're going to feel amazingly light after, let's say the first session really is everything they imagine. It's like a root canal. They will live, and they're going to feel like a little spring lamb when they're released back into the wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that imagery.
By the way, look, and it's even worse than that. Look, I got to be honest, it's not just TikTok influencers and whatever else, right? And look, it serves a purpose. It's entertaining. I like it too. Don't get me wrong. Most therapists are engaged in trying to change people's behavior. They're trying to work out what is wrong with this person. How do I fix this person? What is wrong with that person in the relationship? How do I fix that person? Now, both members of a couple were told this is medicine. And when they go home and they go, I should really shower. I feel dirty. I feel ashamed. I feel this. I think the couples therapy made me feel even worse, right? They don't even realize that it actually makes sense they feel that way. One of the things we say as emotionally focused couples therapists, which is kind of the work I do, right, with my own little sprinklings on top, no couples therapy is better than bad couples therapy. So this is the tragedy. Even when people go to see a couples therapist, the work the therapist is probably doing is actually not helping. Because they don't even realize themselves. They're engaged in behavior change. And just think what that means. If you're trying to change someone's behavior, the primary message you just told the vulnerable one inside that behavior is born out of, you're not acceptable. This is not a safe place for you. So someone comes into my office and they tell me, you know what, I hate, like I remember in San Francisco, I hate this city, liberals running around, immigrants. I can't even wear my red hat in this town. San Francisco, right? You know what I say to that person? Yeah, this city sucks. Right? Damn them all to hell. Come here. And they're not just joking. Wait a second. Are you serious? Like, this city's supposed to be open and progressive and liberal, and you can't wear your red hat without risking being fired? I mean, beaten up on the street? That is bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay. I've earned the right to talk to that vulnerable one inside that person. I didn't jump into trying to change. Hey, I think you got a little antisocial behavior there, buddy. Right? No, you have to earn the right to accept and validate people before you can be on the same side as the table and go, here, come here. What do you think is up about the whole hatred of Mexican people there? Right? You have no right to talk to people about changing their behavior until you have really validated and accepted them, even if you don't like their point of view or their behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. You're almost like commiserating with them for a moment to extend the olive branch. I see you. I see your pain. It's valid. And then kind of take them on a different journey.
Well, yeah, but this is where, like, look, yes and no, right? Yes, you're absolutely right. But I really mean it. Like, I really mean it, right? Like, I may not agree with, the same political point of view. I may not agree with the same assessment of San Francisco, but I've found something inside the person that, wait a second, I become them. And if I believed what they believed, I really get how this city is very threatening. And so I know I genuinely am becoming them and feeling how threatening, and it makes sense they'd have this negative perspective, reactive emotion and behavior towards the city.
Yeah.
It's not just a device. Like, this is the thing. It's not just a strategy, right?
Yeah.
I really feel it. There's not a human being alive that isn't valid and doesn't deserve love and empathy and care. And if I can't find that, that's on me. That's my work. I've twice now had someone that asked them, that used to have their partner do weigh-ins, like to check their weight. I couldn't. Look, I don't even fully understand, right, why I wasn't able to find, I can still not particularly like the behavior that is born out of the way they live in a scary world, right? That's a controlling behavior of the world outside them, because obviously the world is really scary for them, right? But I wasn't able to accept and validate them in the room. I never saw them again. It's done. If you can't accept and validate people where they're at, if you try and get them to somewhere else before you've really like accepted them where they're at, they're like, you're not a safe person for them. Right.
Yeah.
So whether your issue, and this, and when I train therapists, look, if you believe in vaccination, the client doesn't believe in vaccination, they're a Trump supporter, you're not a Trump supporter, whatever it is, like, it just like, you have to be able, you got to be able to be like, you know, like Thich Nhat Hanh in Call Me by My True Names, right? You got to be able to be the sea pirate, you know, that rapes the girl and throws her into the ocean, and be the girl. Both are valid human beings. And that's the, again, that makes me emotional, right? That's the real beauty and the power of the work. Everybody is lovable. Everybody's doing the best they can. Always. And if I find one of my therapists on my team are not doing that, I'm going to have to love them more to help them.
Yeah.
Really, really powerful. Really, really rare to have that perspective in 2022. Definitely inspiring for me.
Yeah. And I this is, you know, outside of just romantic relationship, you can apply these truths and these values to every relationship in your life.
Absolutely.
The world doesn't need more convincing, or let me tell you how bad my life is, or how upset, or this or that. Like, until you really see, like, we need more empathy. We need more curiosity. We need more compassion. Just those two, curiosity and compassion alone, take you so far in any relationship, whether it's a stranger on the street or your mom or your lover. And I think that that's, you know, our world needs a hefty dose of both curiosity and compassion.
Beautiful.
For others.
Absolutely. And look, and this, remember I was saying about the most important thing is not to be good. Look, I'm, as you could probably tell, listening or seeing, like, I have a lot of fire in me. And I'll tell you what some of my most challenging moments are in the last like few years. I have a dog. She's 11 years old. I've had a couple of instances where some other dog has tried to attack my dog. Like the most recent thing, one of my neighbors, right? I live at the end of a cul-de-sac and I got to walk down the street, and my neighbors have this dog that tried to attack my dog, and it badly hurt another dog a few months earlier. I ended up kicking the dog, lying on top of it. So I managed to stop my dog being hurt. But then when the owner's daughter came out, I reverted to being like, again, an Irish hoodlum. I'm effing and blinding. I'm telling the freaking the girl is back. She, like, you know, she's back for college holidays, right? She like let the dog out by accident. She's greeting a friend. I'm like, I'll kill your dog. Your dog goes near my dog again. I'll fucking kill that dog. You know who I fucking am. No, I didn't say that. But that's like, I'm literally talking like that, right? Look, it's only afterwards I realized I was terrified.
Yeah.
I got really scared. And I was totally activated and not proud of it, right? Fight, flight, freeze, placate. I can really fight when I get terrified.
Yeah.
I'm like motor mad, cursing, like. So, but what am I going to do? I'm going to go back to the neighbor. I'm going to tell the neighbor, hey, listen, that really scared me.
Yeah.
It really scared me. Right? And I still, by the way, I walk by the house, I'm looking at where's the pickup that I'm going to throw my dog in. Like, I still have like all these images, right? And look, I'm really sorry for cursing like that. And you should, like, I don't know what you're going to do about your dog if it kills one of your neighbor's dogs. Like, what are you going to do? Like, how's that going to work out for you guys if your dog kills one of your neighbor's dogs?
Yeah.
Right. What are we going to do here? But look, I'm not going to be perfect. There is still a little fiery Irish street kid inside me. And I'm going to have moments that I behave badly, but hopefully I'll eventually get to look, I like feel my vulnerability and share it and repair with the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It reminds me, I feel like I'm like quoting you all over this podcast, but these one-liners that you bring out in different podcast interviews are so good, and I'm just absorbing them. But you say often like we love each other a lot, and we're just scaring the shit out of each other.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And it comes back to the dog from the pound and how we behave when we are scared. And I've noticed that kind of as we bring this to a close, like I want to encourage the listener that Chase and I have been through a lot in our relationship. And although I'm happier than I've ever been in my life, I feel like our relationship, the soil of it is so healthy and rich and fertile. We still bump up against the shit. It's never going to stop.
Absolutely. I love that.
We just continue to learn about each other, learn about ourselves, and hopefully shorten the time that we are disconnected. And like you mentioned, we become better at the coming back together, and it takes less time every time. Hopefully.
Yeah, and I'd even go a step further. You should celebrate. Again, remember what the two main equations of love are. And there's slight variations, but the main equations, you're so important to me when it looks like you're not here, I'm devastated. And you're so important to me when it looks like you're disappointed in me, I'm devastated. And so the fights you have, the disconnection you have that lasts too long, you should be running to 7-Eleven and buying the most expensive bottle of champagne they have. And like celebrating. Oh my God, look, we just fought again because of how much we love each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy. I hope you never stop scaring each other, because it means, look, I still get scared when you're not there. I still feel awful when you're disappointed in me. Yes.
Yeah. That's a good sign.
Scare each other forever. Don't ever stop scaring each other. Right? Because it means you love each other.
Yeah.
And I keep repeating it because a lot of it is our brain has been hardwired at this point. There's this highway inside our brain that these things are problems and we need to change them. And actually, we don't need to change them. We need to see them and understand them as evidence of something else. We're each other's person. Of course, you'd be devastated when it looks like I'm disappointed in you. And I'm your person. Of course, when I go quiet, you're devastated.
Yeah.
Again, remember the technical solution. Again, we should love the shit out of each other right now. This last disconnection that went on too long was so hard for both of us. Right? That's an all needs met moment. One person takes a turn, then the other person takes a turn. That's an all needs met moment.
I feel like that's super resonating for our relationship, but for everybody at large. And I think that's the big takeaway today is that there's actually light on the polar end of that really shitty feeling, because it's evidence that there's something really deep and beautiful behind the relationship at large.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a huge takeaway. And I want to thank you for phrasing things in the way that you do and coming up with unique ways of explaining, because it's really potent. And I love the way that you teach and the way that you're able to relate to people, with humor and being relatable and everything. And it's because, like you said, this is trauma work. We're working through traumas, which can in and of itself be really scary. And so we need some lightness also in that, so that it's not,
it should be fun.
That working on the trauma is not a traumatic experience all over again.
No, that's it. And look, there's so many. By the way, a good, very quick definition of what trauma is just something bad from the past merges with the present. So I think a lot of times people think of trauma as like, it has to be this big, ginormous thing. But it literally, when I hear a door close, it was my dad leaving and I never knew when he'd come back. Does it mean like you're like sitting in a corner? No, but something happens that I still get scared when you go away. Why aren't you texting me? Yeah. It's just the past of your childhood is merging with this present moment, right? I think we're all having trauma in that definition all the time, especially in relationship, because your limbic system is like a little naked mole rat, right? It doesn't see, right? It's just like fucking feeling around. It doesn't know it's not your mom, right? It's like that's who you are to each other. It's just feeling and smell. Like you're so important to each other that you're going to scare each other all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, I love that.
That's perfect. I think it's a good way to close this thing out.
Mhm.
Figs, it's been such a blessing. We got one more question for you. One last question we ask every guest on the medicine. This podcast is all about discovering the real, what we call medicines in this life that can be supportive of your mind, of your body, or of your relationships. So out of curiosity for you, what feels like medicine? It definitely doesn't have to be literal medicine, but what feels like medicine currently for your life?
Currently for my life right now, the ocean. Like I said, I do outrigger canoeing. I'm kind of a scaredy cat. I'm a bit of a chicken. And like these days I go like just 3 days ago, my wife and I went 3 miles out. We were watching whales. We saw sharks and we're riding waves. Now, other people that are skiers, snowboarders, rock climbers, they're like, whatever. I'm not kidding. Like, this is not the kind of activity I would do. Right. I do all my risk taking in emotions. So I feel like I'm really being stretched in ways that, like, being comfortable in the ocean and with speed and you know, that is just I just cannot begin to even tell you how much I'm growing by being a beginner in this area that is really kind of out of my comfort zone.
I love that. I love that you're pushing yourself
Thank you.
into that.
I wish when I was younger, I was a better beginner. I know, like, I mean, like, you know, like I said, I'm 51. Why wasn't I a good beginner? Like, I liked rugby as a kid, but when the coaches would tell me, like, you got to work on something, I'd be like, they don't know me, right? Like, why wasn't I a better beginner when I was younger? You know, I hate that now, but there you go.
Never too late. Never too late.
Yeah, I'm being a beginner now. It's good.
Well, let people know where they can find out more about you. If you have any offerings for our listeners, we would love to hear.
Yeah, so the website is empathy with an I in the end.com. And then we are like giving away our flagship course for free. So I'm assuming you're going to put it in the show notes. We'll give you the link.
Yes.
Yep.
So it'll, like, you know, anyway, so empathy.com is the main website, and, like, you know, and then we'll give you the link so that people can take our conflict solution course for free. It's a relatively new thing we're doing. And the main reason we give it away for free is we're experimenting with this is, look, the course is great. We put a lot of effort into it, and there is no replacement for actual face-to-face. Like, remember, it's all about having this experience. I can explain it. It can be fun, but ultimately you got to get on the bike.
Yep.
I wish a course alone did it. I really do. I'd love that I was just selling courses.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's no replacement for the actual live couple to coach or therapist that can facilitate these transformational experiences. So it's an experiment we're doing. And but yeah, empathy.com. And then on social media, all of ours is Empathy Now. EMPATHINOW. Like,
okay.
All the different platforms.
Great. Yeah, we'll have all of those links in the show notes, you guys. Wow, what an incredible offer. Just an incredible course for free. We've never had that offering to our listeners before. So definitely, you guys, if you're interested, if you resonated with what Figs was sharing today, go check out that course. And can people take that course individually, or is it?
Yeah, individually or together. We designed a course that you can do it on your own or together. So it works either way.
Okay.
Yeah. So and it works for single people too, right? There's ways in which it's valuable. When you say with a single person, you got to create an avatar, an amalgam, like an actual person for your last relationship, or some amalgamation of your past relationships. And then you get to do an acting exercise, which part of it you're being yourself, which is one of the key skills to being a really good therapist, is you got to be good at becoming other people, right? Chase, you referenced this earlier, like you were able to become Mimi and imagine what it's like to be her in a fight. Really important skill to develop. right? Then you get to become this avatar, your X or your amalgamation of X's. And it'll be a wonderful way to prepare you for a future relationship that is based on the actual science and best methods of how to help people today.
Got it.
Beautiful.
Amazing. Thank you so
You're
much
welcome. Thank
for
you.
being here.
You guys are amazing. You listened, like you actually did research on me. You like talking to me.
Super fun, man.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank
We
you. I
are
love talking to you guys. It's lovely. Thank you.
we are so grateful for your work in this world. Everything comes back to relationships. It is a primary need. It can't be replaced by anything else that we attain or acquire in the world. We need solid, healthy, fulfilling relationships in our life. And I'm so grateful that you help people experience that. All right, you guys, thank you for hanging with us. Check the show notes for all the applicable links, and we will talk to you next time. Go spread some light.
Thank you so much for listening.
If you enjoyed that, check out right over here for some more fun clips.
Oh, and you're going to want to subscribe.
Bye.